Hey everybody, how you guys doing? Jim Prusak, licensed physical therapist here from the Pain PT, and I've got evidence of the week for y'all today. And as I mentioned in some of my earlier shorts this week, in other videos, I'm gonna talk today about a way to regulate emotion and symptoms like pain. And it's a strategy that's not talked about as much because mainly when we think about emotion regulation strategies, we think about strategies such as reappraisal, which is a strategy we can use called cognitive reappraisal, where we reappraise, we think about situations differently in our mind, we change the perception, we change our interpretation mentally. We have things such as affect labeling, which is just expressing and labeling the emotion you feel. Um, there's other things like expressive suppression, which isn't so good, right? That's just like it sounds, suppressing the expression. Okay, that actually has been shown in a lot of studies to not be so good because that amplifies the emotion, it keeps it stuck, or in our case, amplifies the symptom and keeps it stuck. Okay, so we have some different strategies that have been studied. But what we want to do here is we want to also include this strategy. Okay, this is from a paper in 2019 that I'm going to go through right now. And the title of the paper, it was in Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience Journal, is Let It Be. Mindful acceptance downregulates pain and negative emotion. Let it be. Mindful acceptance downregulates pain and negative emotion. And again, we talked about again having emotional dysregulation, which is related to these symptoms in the body. We want to think of your symptoms and emotions as one and the same here. Okay, when we're dealing with this, we're not thinking of this purely as a physical symptom in your body anymore once you've ruled that out. It's more emotional, to be honest, than it is physical. Okay, so the idea that we can regulate emotion and pain, it's one and the same thing. We can see these things go down. And like they say here in this paper, neuroscientific studies have focused almost entirely on strategies that control attention to or cognitively transform the meaning of emotional thoughts, stimuli, or events. Things such as distraction, that's another technique. We can distract ourselves, right? Let's go do something else, look at something else. That's another um, technique or a strategy. Reappraisal, like I mentioned before. But this one here, let it be mindful acceptance, is another strategy. It hasn't been studied as much. So this paper really wanted to look at that and see, well, how does it affect emotion and pain and what's going on in the brain when this happens through functional MRI? They asked this question here in the study, are there effective emotion regulation strategies that do not depend on top-down cognitive control? So cognitive control is you thinking, you manipulating, and you telling yourself things. I'm safe. It's okay. It's all right. No, this is TMS. Hey, this is neuroplastic. Oh, you're going to be fine. Like all the self-talk, which is okay to use. It is again a form of regulating or saying, "Hey, I'm anxious," or I feel angry. Those are helpful emotion regulation strategies. But the one we're going to talk about today is also very powerful, and I think it's underused. And this is this idea of mindfully noticing and accepting one's affective reactions, which is your symptoms or your feelings in your body. And as they say here in the paper, mindfulness is involving attention to the present moment experience, even if it's unpleasant, with an accepting attitude that lets it be exactly as it is without reacting, judging, or avoiding it. And you hear me talk about this all the time, right? I talk about this strategy in ways of saying this to you guys that, hey, we got to stop reacting to this. We got to stop trying to change the symptom, judge it, avoid it, do anything to it that's trying to change it or get away from it. Mindfulness, just like it says again here, is present moment awareness, moment to moment of accepting and allowing what we're experiencing and letting that pass through the body, okay, without reacting, judging, or avoiding it, exactly as it is. And when we do that, as you're going to see here, it has very positive effects. Okay. And in the study, what was interesting, it says you don't have to be a meditator. They took people, 17 people that were not, had no experience meditating, and that they said you can teach this to somebody in a single session. Okay. And I do this in my group classes. If you want to join them, we practice some of these things because you can learn them quickly, but then you just need to be able to apply them when you need to versus going into the old patterns. Okay. And they say here that mindful acceptance in the study, they wanted to do this, look at this because it suggests that it might depend upon different neural mechanisms in your brain than reappraisal in other related strategies. And it hasn't been well studied. Okay. So again, the people in the study were briefly instructed to use mindful acceptance as a strategy in the presence of emotional stimuli, meaning they've showed them images on a screen that elicited some negative emotion. And they were also given a stimulus on their body of either pain or warmth, okay, while maintaining a mindset of mindful acceptance or reacting naturally. So one group was taught the mindful acceptance, the other group was just react as you react. And they also reported their negative emotion level or pain after each trial. And they wanted to know whether this mindful acceptance was an effective regulation strategy for modulating the negative emotion and the pain. Okay. And then how it works. What is it doing in the brain? So, what they found here, which is really interesting and it makes sense, and it's great because it supports the work I do here and what I teach, is that yes, they found novel evidence that mindful acceptance can be an effective as an emotion regulation strategy for a meditation naive adult. So you don't have to be a Buddhist, you don't have to be somebody who's been trying to study meditation for a long time. We can learn this pretty quickly, but we need to be able to apply it, daily or when we need to. We found in the study that it reduced behavioral and neural markers of negative emotions associated with aversive images and painful heat. And importantly, these reductions occurred in the absence of detectable prefrontal cortex recruitment. Now, this is really important and it makes a lot of sense. And I always say this, I've said this forever. This mindful acceptance and allowance is a very low energy practice. It doesn't take a lot of cognitive resources. It doesn't take you having to talk to yourself or analyze this or do that. Because it's a very much just an openness and allowance of what's here, okay, from a very non-judgmental place. So we're not doing anything. That's why I love this practice. It's a practice of non-doing. It's more of a practice of acceptance and allowance. Okay, and that's what they found actually in the brain. They found that actually the prefrontal cortex was not being lit up. It was not being activated in the same way it gets activated with cognitive reappraisal or some of these other strategies where the person's thinking a lot, using a lot of cognitive resources. So this is a great strategy, everybody, because sometimes you don't have the cognitive resources, right? People are overwhelmed. They're they're flooded with emotion, they're flooded with symptoms, and it's called the hijack, amygdala hijack. They can't think clearly. So this is strategy of this mindful acceptance and allowance strategy is a powerful one because you can use it. It doesn't take a lot to drop into this state. Okay. And it said critically here, mindful acceptance also reduced pain-related activity in this parts of your brain, okay, that they see light up when we have pain. Okay, so it actually reduced that. And it suggests here that mindful acceptance has more pervasive effects on pain processing than does reappraisal. So everybody take this in. It had more effects than just reappraisal. Reappraisal is saying, "Hey, I'm okay. I know what this is. This is a neuroplastic symptom. We're safe. We're okay. Everything's going to be fine." Or, reappraising a situation. "Hey, this isn't a big deal. It's all right. There's no danger. There's no threat." Yes, use those, use that strategy of self-talk, but remember, it's not the only one. I get a lot of people who are just continuing so much self-talk and go use it, but sprinkle it in And outside of that, sprinkling in, use this mindful acceptance because it's actually more powerful. And that's what the study found here. And it changed the affective appraisal. Okay, appraisal means the interpretation of the emotion or symptom in ways that differ from other emotion regulation strategies. Okay. And what it did do is it downregulated the amygdala. Okay, they saw this in a functional MRI. So the amygdala activity decreased in the brain, which is good. That's what we want. That means the emotional generator of the brain started to quiet down. So there's less emotional activity and reactivity happening. Okay, so all very positive results, clinically positive here. What they found here is that this mindful acceptance is an emotion regulation strategy and can be applied in any moment. And it works differently in your brain than some of these other strategies, but it does quiet down pain and it quiets down emotion, as they saw in the amygdala activity going down, but not in the same ways as some of these more cognitively straining strategies that people are doing and trying to employ. Okay, so I want everybody to take home that you can and you should be using this strategy. And if you're not sure how to do this, please reach out. This is what I teach to people either one-to-one or in group classes that I teach. So this is a big component of how we work with and handle these somatic symptoms that we're experiencing. Okay. So again, I'll link this article in the notes here if you want to take a look at it. But I just want to share with you guys the research here that this is one of your strategies that we want to be using. It's a low energy practice. It's a beautiful one. It's non-controlling, non-doing, but it has effects on your system, on your nervous system, on your brain that are therapeutic and can be very helpful. Again, reach out if you need support and want to learn how to do this. You can find me at the Pain PT, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.